All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome. My name is MrBATMAN, and we're going to be talking about lessons in truth. Now, the main thing we're going to be talking about today is creation and evolution. Now, who knows what evolution is? Anybody? Can you tell me what evolution is? What's the definition of evolution?
Definition of what I know is that slowly advance over time. Sometimes differently changes the body and stuff, but it's primarily just advancing.
But primarily just advances. Small changes over time that build up and give us who we are. That is, evolution thinks that we must get bigger, better, stronger, faster, smarter over time. So that's what evolution believes. So let's look at what creation believes. Creation believes that there's an almighty creator God. And that creator God created everything. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single type of creation myth out there. I'm only going to talk to you about the truth. And the truth is this right here. It's in this bag. It's called the Bible. The Bible is absolutely true. And the Bible is what I'm going to be referring to when I say the Word of God, not any other document. And before I move on any further, let me be exceedingly clear. Every word in the Bible is perfectly true. And we can know it to be true. Not just a little sliver in the front or in the back, not the big chunk in the front, but all of the Bible is completely true. So, on the table here, I've got a couple things you might want to look at. One of these is called a dragonfly. Who's ever heard of a dragonfly? Yeah, dragonflies are pretty cool creatures, aren't they? I love them. Now, how many wings does a dragonfly have? Anybody know? 4. That's right, 4 wings. Did you know with those 4 wings that dragonfly can flap each one of those wings individually at a different speed? Now, I want you to think about this for a second. A dragonfly can come up to this table and stop and hover. It can turn around like this. It can back up if it needs to. It can go up, it can go down. What kind of thing do we know in our world that can do something like that in the air? A helicopter. Where do you think Mr. Schwartzky learned how to create his helicopter? Welcome, sir. Go ahead and sign up there, get your name on a piece of paper, get in for the drawing. So, he studied the dragonfly. He studied the dragonfly, and that's a special kind of science. That's called biomimicry. If you mimic something, you are copying it. So they're copying the biological world in order for us to have a helicopter. Really pretty cool. Now, I want you to think about how much processing power from a computing standpoint it takes for you to be able to flap. Can you flap your arms at a different speed? Now wait a minute, think about that for a second. You really got to think about it really hard before you can get one arm to flap at a different speed than the other. Now, if you had all 4 of your appendages going at the same time, can you do that? No. And you know what? The dragonfly starts off as something not as a dragonfly. I want us to look at this real quick. On the chart here, has anybody ever seen the movie Alien? Oh, I like Alien. You know, he opens up that mouth and this other thing comes out and says, "Kaboom! Gotcha!" But you know what? They didn't come up with that on their own. They got that from the dragonfly nymph. And you can look this up on YouTube and other places. The dragonfly nymph has a really cool thing on his face called a labium. The labium, or the mask, is how this guy eats. Now, he starts off as an egg, and he comes out of the egg, and he's pretty much got the labium ready to go, and he starts eating. And y'all know what a spork is, right? Everybody knows, y'all got cafeterias, everybody's got the spork, okay? He has 2 sporks on the side of his face. That's why it's called the mask. Sits right on the side of his face. So when he comes up to eat something, usually a mosquito larvae or something like that, he comes up to it, he doesn't have arms he can reach out and grab it, but he's got this mask, this labium, and the labium opens up, and almost instantly, you have to do it in slow motion to see it. It reaches out just like Alien and grabs the thing and pulls it back to its face, and it just starts eating on it. That's really pretty cool. It's a great hunter in the water. But I got some really neat facts for you about the dragonfly. Does anybody know how the dragonfly nymph, how he breathes? Where does it? Through his mouth? Nope.
Through his skin, but
You know, actually he does.
I know.
That's really pretty cool. He actually takes in water through his abdomen from his rectum. Yes, he does. And he filters that water through some internal workings inside his abdomen, and then he expels it again through his rectum. I also call this a toot jet, because if he is breathing, takes in a deep breath, and a predator comes, he can squeeze all that out real quick right from his rectum, and boom, just like a jet ski, he's out the door. So, that's really pretty cool. But wait a minute, you got lots of parts here. You got, look at all these parts right here. You got the part of the face that grabs. You got the part, come on in and have a seat. Put your name on one of those big pieces of paper. Oh, okay. Gotcha. And you can see,
It's all right.
he's got many pieces. Now he also has compound eyes, and he will do something called molt. He will shed his skin anywhere between 12 and 14 times. Each time he is changing a little bit, just like the evolution thing that we talked about. But there's a problem with that. Evolution doesn't work for this. Because in order to have small successive changes over time, you have to have a mechanism or something that drives those changes. What do you think makes changes? What do you think makes evolution happen? What do you think makes that happen?
Your brain.
Your brain? Wait a minute. If your brain makes evolution happen, where did your brain come from? Oh, no, what makes evolution happen?
Natural selection.
Natural selection. Okay, let me ask you a question. In order to select for something, doesn't it already have to exist so you can select it? Let's say if you're going in to the grocery store. In order to get a gallon of milk, doesn't that gallon of milk already have to exist and be on the shelf for you to select it? Where did the gallon of milk come from? See, what you got here is a problem. You've got information for different traits. So the natural selection can only select for the information that's already there. Natural selection does not create any information. Now, some people might say mutation. Who's ever heard that mutation gives us new information? Guess what? That's also wrong. A mutation is a copying error of the existing working information. So in order for you to get a mutation, the information had to be there before that, so it can be copied. It's called a self-replicating system. So, we've got a problem here. But you know what? People have different opinions, and I'm really not interested in opinions. Because I like the truth. So, wouldn't you agree that each and every one of us have a beginning? Like this dragonfly. He started off as an egg before he became a nymph, right? So, we all had a beginning. Another big creature that has a beginning is a butterfly. A butterfly is an awesome creature, especially the monarch butterfly. That monarch butterfly starts off as an egg laid on one kind of plant, the milkweed plant. And with that milkweed plant being in really distress right now, there's not a whole lot of them out there, the monarch butterfly is really having a struggle getting back and forth in its migration route. Well, that's another cool thing about the monarch butterfly. Migration, we'll talk about that in a second. But he starts off as an egg, and so as the egg hatches, and the first thing he knows is, I'm hungry, I gotta eat. Well, the first thing he does is to turn around and he eats his own shell. What makes you think he knows that he can eat his own shell? That's pretty cool. Figure out how he knows that. Well, then he knows he's got one desire after that. He becomes a caterpillar, he's got one desire, and that is to eat. That caterpillar, he's an eating machine. He eats everything in his path on that milkweed plant. Eat. And all of a sudden, he knows. How does he know that he's full? How does he know he's got enough? But if somehow he knows he's got enough energy in his system now built up that he can start the process of making a chrysalis, or a cocoon, some people call it. And so he'll hook himself up underneath a limb, and he'll shake off that old skin, and then the chrysalis will form. Inside that chrysalis, he turns into something else. Now, he goes from a caterpillar with multiple legs that eats milkweed. Now, what does he become when he's in the chrysalis? Anybody know? No. Before he becomes a butterfly, he goes to something else. He turns into green liquid, green goo. The only thing that's left of the caterpillar in the chrysalis is his little heart going. Then he reforms himself, and that's what I want to point out. There's 3 sets of genetic information inside the butterfly. You have the set of genetic information that makes him a caterpillar, a set of genetic information that turns him into the goo, and another set that makes him into a butterfly. Now think about this. When he's a caterpillar, All he does is eat milkweed. He's eating solid food. That's all he does. Now he's a butterfly. What's he eat? Anybody know? What's he eat? Nectar. That's all he eats. So he went from eating all the time to doing no eating and drinking all the time. Now that's one big change. How does he know how to do that? Now also he makes another big change. He goes from crawling all the time. What's a butterfly do?
Fly.
Fly. Yeah, he's a butterfly. He flies. How did he learn how to fly? Where'd that information come from? I mean, there's lots of questions to be asked. Yes?
He just popped out one day and said, I know how to fly. And it just flew.
Pretty much, yeah. But wait a minute. In order for him to pop out, where did he pop out from? Popped out from an egg, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Chicken.
Wait a minute. That doesn't work. One chicken doesn't give you an egg. You what now? The cave ring explosion? Hey, guys, I tell you what we're going to do. Some question and answer. I love this kind of stuff, man. So don't think you're scaring me by any of your questions. I've been doing this for 40 years. Long time. Probably longer than you all. You're not 40, are you?
I'm 49.
No, I don't care. He's like 39. He's close.
He's like 6, but yeah.
I would be a lot
Well,
older than you can say I am.
I want you to think about something. When you think about the Cambrian explosion, I love the Cambrian explosion. You have all these different life forms that all of a sudden, poof, into existence. Now, you have no skeletal systems, no internal organs, no eyes, no nervous system, and then all of a sudden, you do. Where's all that information come from to give you all these multiplicity of systems? Let me point out something to you real quick, and then we're going to start giving some stuff away.
Is it reborn Jesus?
Oh, I tried to be, Mr. Cameron. But you know what? Here's something really cool. When we think about something like our heart, everybody hold up your hand like that. That is the size of your heart. Now put that over your chest. That's where your heart is. And you know what? Your heart beats about, if I remember correctly, 7 million times a year if you're an adult. A little bit more if you're a child. But anyway, 7 million times a year. Now I also want you to think about how much that's pumping. Your blood is a thick liquid. It's not like Coke. It's more like, watered down peanut butter. And it's in your veins, and your heart is pumping 700,000 gallons of your blood into your body each and every year without stopping. Because if it ever stops, what happens? You die. That's right. So, yes, sir.
Where does the blood go that creates more?
You what now?
Where does the blood go that creates more?
Where does the blood go? It doesn't actually, the blood is created in the bone marrow when it actually dies out because it actually has what's called programmed cell death. And what that is each and every cell has a lifespan. And it's all dictated inside the genetics, inside its genetic code and its DNA. So what happens is the cell comes into existence through the bone marrow. It goes to work, starts carrying the air into the cells, carries the carbon dioxide back out to the lungs. It does this, it starts to wear out. And then it programs cell death, and we expel it. Sometimes you get rid of cells through your skin. Sometimes you get rid of them through numerous different ways. But the fact of the matter is, when that one dies, there's another one that's going to take its place. But that's why we age. Because as these cells are being replaced, they're not being replaced in the same fashion as they were before. Yes, sir?
If time was like a man-made thought, how would we know how long it's been?
If time was a man-made thought. But, let me ask you a question. Can we measure time?
No.
Actually, we can. What's this right here? Yes, we can measure time. And you know what? We know that time is specific, but it can be changed. Did you know we can change time?
Yeah.
Do you know if you take an atomic clock and take that atomic clock and put it at the lowest point on our planet, one of the deserts, I can't remember which one it is, and you take another atomic clock, set it at the exact same time, put it in the airplane and take it up as high as it will go, that one that's high will run at a different rate than the one that's low. Why? Because they're in a gravity well. It's called the theory of relativity. Gravity makes time work differently. So the only way we can know time is in our own time. But let me ask you a question. Time had a beginning because time, space, and matter is part of what's called a continuum. You cannot have time without space. You cannot have space without matter. If you created matter but didn't have any time, when would you put it? You wouldn't be able to. If you created space and didn't have any matter, what difference does it make? So, again, you have to have all three at the same time. Time, space, and matter are really cool. Do you know that's in the very first book of the Bible called Genesis? Genesis means beginnings. And this is a scientific statement that we were not even aware of until the late 1920s, when a gentleman by the name of Edwin Hubble discovered the expansion rate of our universe. Who's ever heard of Edwin Hubble? Anybody? Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's the Hubble telescope. You may have heard of that. Well, Edwin Hubble discovered the expansion rate of the universe, and that's why we have the Big Bang Theory. Not because he discovered the Big Bang, but because they discovered some evidence that they couldn't explain. So now they have to come up with a theory to explain what they're seeing. That's where the Big Bang came from. They said, uh-oh, well, everything's expanding out in all directions simultaneously. That means if we go backwards in time, everything is crunching down to what they call a singularity simultaneously. Here's the great thing about that. What they just pointed out is that all time, space, and matter had a beginning. Because if you come down to a singularity, you cannot get to a point where there is no thing. It had a beginning. Every bit of time, space, and matter had a beginning. That's called the singularity. Singularity is made of time, space, and matter, and energy. So where did that come from? In order for you to have this world, in order for us to be sitting here and having this conversation, you know what you got to have? You got to have the God of the Bible. In order to know things to be true, in order to know anything, you have to have Jesus. Jesus in John 14:6 says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. Now what he's doing, he's not just making up some new thing so he can put his New Testament and a new church. No, he's not doing that. He's quoting the Old Testament. He's actually quoting Psalms 119 verse 160, where it says, the sum of your word is truth and all of your righteous rulings endure forever. He's actually also quoting Psalm 119 verse 1, where it says, blessed is the man who walks in the way of your Torah, your instruction. Because you're going to be blessed if you do what God says do. And he's also quoting Proverbs 13:1, where it says he is the life. So, without God, you cannot know anything to be true. Without the Creator, you don't have a creation. This is what brought me to God. I used to be an atheist. I used to be what I call a hedonistic, humanistic atheist. You know what? If I thought it would put a smile on my face, I'd stab you in the back in a heartbeat. If I thought that it would make me giggle, I would kick you down a flight of stairs. I used to be a really nasty person. You know what? But I'm not that person anymore. Because we, as people, are loved by God. And he wants us to know him. That's why he gave us his creation. The creation declares the handiwork of the Creator. So guys, anything that you have, anything that you do, anything that you know, it all depends upon God. So do you all have any questions? Any questions? All right, well, let's give something away. Somebody come on up here. Let me get a volunteer to pick up one of these things. Why don't you come on up, pick one of these names and read it for me. Cameron Osborne. Come on up. All right, Brent. You get a $5 gift certificate for Java Station. Thank you very much. All right, appreciate that. Okay, I'll take that back. Thank you. Okay. Now, go ahead. Now, we'll give another one here away in just a few minutes. I'm going to give one away every few minutes. That way I get to talk and you all get to hang out. A hook is what it's called. I set the hook and you all stay and listen to me yabber. Okay, you gotta go? Okay. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Have a good day. Okay. I know sometimes you guys gotta leave because people are coming and stuff like that. But, you know, when we talk about truth, when we talk about how we know what to do, how we know things, how do you know what's right and wrong? Have you ever thought about that? You know, we all have something called a conscience. Now, you all know what a compound word is, don't you? I've been teaching first grade this week. And I've been preaching about compound words. Conscience is a compound word, and I love it. Con means with. The word science means knowledge. So you were built in from your Creator with knowledge of what is right and what is wrong. Innately, you know it without even having to look. Because you know it's wrong to lie. That's why you get that hot feeling when you get caught lying or caught stealing. You know? But wait a minute. how do you know it's not just your opinion that it's wrong to lie? See? How do you know? Do what? Yeah. You get taught by your parents, but what if your parents are cannibals? And they think it's okay to be cannibals. Does that make it okay? No, that wouldn't be right.
I'd be gone.
I would be gone too. Yeah, I'd be gone in a heartbeat. So where does that come from? Where does right and wrong come from? That's a great question. Does anybody know?
Almighty God who told us what was right and wrong.
Exactly. Yes.
Nothing can be right or wrong. Because in some people's eyes, something could be right, even though in your eyes it could be wrong.
You know what? That's called relative truth. And you know what? That's absolutely wrong. You want to know why? Because, let me ask you a question. Would you agree that 2 fingers plus 2 more fingers is 4 fingers? Okay. Would you agree that it doesn't matter what I say, it's never going to be anything other than 4 fingers? And it doesn't matter what you say, it's never going to be anything other than 4 fingers. Right? So it doesn't matter what you believe. If you believe something that's untrue, it doesn't matter what you believe. See, you have the right to be wrong. That's free will. God has made you know certain things. And you have the right to use your free will to say, sorry, I'm not going to believe that. Yes, sir.
See, there is a right and wrong. It's all about your personal mind state. If you do something wrong, that's on you. That's what you think you should have done. But later in life, it's going to affect you. You're going to be out of it.
Yep. You know what? I like that. It's in your personal. But wait a minute. If one person says, you know what? It's wrong for me to kick somebody down the stairs. But another person says, well, it's right for me to kick somebody down the stairs and hurt them and make them kill them. Y'all gotta go? Okay. God bless you guys. Thank you for coming.
God bless.
So, what makes those things? How do you know which one is right and which one is wrong? If you got 2 people doing exactly the opposite thing, these are their opinions. So which one is right and which one is wrong? How do you know? You don't. Unless you have somebody outside of your mind to appeal to, talk to. Yes, sir. Yeah, they don't care. So a sociopath is somebody who really doesn't have any feelings for anybody else. They really don't care. And you know what? The Bible talks about it. That's called searing your conscience. Most people are born that way. There are a few that's called a birth defect. But birth defects can be understood only because we live in a world that God created and that we broke. See, that's why everything is broken the way it is. You know, what God created in Genesis, if you ever look at the book of Genesis, it says God created and it was good. And he looked at everything and it was very good. Well, you know what? If it's very good, then what happened? What happened? Adam and Eve sinned. Yeah. And who did what? Who's the biggest one to fall? Who's the biggest one to fall? Eve. Oh, why is Eve at fault? Why? Oh, Satan did not know about that. Who's at fault?
Adam, because God directly told him not to eat of the fruit, and he should have told his wife as a spiritual head of his household.
That's true.
And then you have to remember that.
I feel like both of them is at fault because they could have ignored everything that was said instead of following basically peer pressure.
I agree with that too. But let me go ahead and show you something real quick. In the Bible, it talks about how God gave the instructions to Adam. He's the man. And you know what? As men, and we're all men here now, as men, we're called to be the leaders and the heads of our households. You know what? I mean, you look at somebody and they're pushing a girl around, you men stand up and do something about that. You know, because that's not right to push a girl around. Well, that's the way we're wired. Because God created us that way. And he trusted us because he gave us his instructions first. And he told us to tell the wife. Okay? So we did tell the wife. Okay, great. But guess what? Now they're standing there, and Adam and Eve are standing there right together. And Satan comes and starts talking to Eve. And Eve is talking to Satan back and forth, and the serpent. And Adam's standing right there not doing a darn thing. See, what happened was, he just stepped back and said, nah, I'm not going to do anything. So he shirked his job. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. That's why we, you know what the Bible even says? The Bible says, because you have listened to your wife and not to me, the ground and everything else on earth is cursed because of you. See, ultimately it's on Adam. It's called Adam's sin. But Adam sinned because he didn't do what God had told him. He listened to his wife. Now guys, I'm married. I love my wife, and guess what my wife's name is? Robin. So together we are Batman and Robin. One more reason I like Batman. Anyway, I love my wife. But you know what? I have to listen to my wife because she has great information. But who's ultimately in control? Who's ultimately the head of the house? Who's ultimately responsible if I don't do it right? Yeah, me. Yes, sir. Oh, you're raising it. Good. I'm glad you agree. But you know what? If we don't do things like that correctly, then it's, like you said, it's going to come back upon us. Because the Bible talks about that in a different way. Some people call that karma. But actually it's cause and effect. The Bible talks about that like you reap what you sow. Reaping is when you harvest something. You planted something, and sowing is what you planted. So if you're out there, you got nothing to do, and all of a sudden you go on the computer and you're doing some bad searches, looking at some bad stuff online. You know what? That plants a seed in your mind. You know what we were talking about sociopaths. You mentioned sociopaths earlier. You know a lot of sociopaths, they start off that way. They start looking at things and it gets worse, it grows. It becomes an addiction. People say, oh, it's just on a computer screen, it's nothing bad. No, it becomes an addiction. You want more and more and more. You know why I know? I used to be addicted to it. I never used to be able to admit that. But here recently, I've been able to do that pretty openly. But the fact of the matter is, I wanted to hide it. Because, hey, it's just between me. It's just me. No, it affects your brain. It affects the way you think. And us as men, we're visual creatures. You know, we love to look at good-looking things. Now, guys, women are pretty. That's right. And it's okay to look at a woman and say, man, you're pretty. Nothing wrong with that. Yes? Okay. Yeah, come on in. So yeah, I mean, we look at the female body, and it's built to be pretty, to be appealing to us. But it's built to be appealing to us as our wife, because God tells us to love others the way we love ourselves. Now, come on in. We'll put your name on one of those pink cards, and we'll get you set up in the drawing. So, God says that He commands us to love our wives, and He commands us to do so sacrificially. So, as men, we're supposed to do what's best for our wife, no matter what that costs us, no matter what that looks like. So, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it costs us, that's what we're supposed to do. And God really expects us to do that. When we don't do what God expects us to do, that is called sin. Sin is breaking God's law, breaking God's Torah. That's what that's called. The word Torah literally means instruction.
I just got disrespected all the time.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I think you just got disrespected again. I love you, Mr. Cameron. Come on in. Anyway, but when you think about it, we have the ability to know what is right and what is wrong because God gives us that ability. Now, we talked a little bit about how things are complex. You know, how the complexity of the the dragonfly. The dragonfly is the butterfly. But do you know these things are irreducibly complex? And that's where I was going at when I was starting off parsing. I got sidetracked. I get ADHD or whatever. I got all those letters. I don't know. Anyway, when we talk about the heart is this size in your chest, pumps a lot of blood to you. But wait a minute. What evolved first? If evolution is true, what evolved first? Was it the heart that pumps the blood? Was it the blood that carries the oxygen in and out of the body? Or was it the veins and arteries? Which one of those evolved first? That's not all that's needed for the system, but that's the basic three parts. Which one?
The tail.
The what?
The tail. Because the first few months before you're born, you have a tail.
Well, actually, it's not really a tail. We have what's called a tailbone, and that's what that's actually called. That's why they call it. Looks like a tail, but it's actually the formation of our spinal cord and our all the different bones that are related to the spinal cord. Yeah. But when we're talking about when we're talking about things like that, when you're talking about the information that's in the system, you're talking about how it's irreducibly complex. See, you've got the heart, and the heart itself pumps, like we talked about. It has 4 chambers. What caused something to evolve 4 chambers? And not only 4 chambers, but it's called a closed system. Because when it pumps in, the out ones is closed. The out valves are closed. When it pumps out, the in valves are closed. I mean, it has to work exactly at the same time, or you die. What caused that? Now wait a minute, not only that, but that heart doesn't work if you don't have blood to pump. And it doesn't work to have a heart and blood to pump if you don't have veins and arteries. So all these things are what's called irreducibly complex. You have to have all of them at the same time or you don't have a system. But let me point something out to you about blood itself. Everybody's had a cut or a scrape. You know, why does your blood clot on your skin but not clot in your veins? Why? What you got?
So it's like the blood can keep on the flow, but come out of you.
Right, exactly. So, but here's what you got to remember. Yes, sir.
Do you have antibodies that make it clot?
Yes, there are specific antibodies, and they're part of something called a cascade effect. There's a 100-step cascade effect in your blood. That is, you have to have 100 steps, and it has to go in exactly this order. It has to be 1 step, then step 2, then step 3, then step 4, all the way down 100 steps. If you miss 1 step, your blood doesn't work right, so you die. If you miss one of those steps, you get a paper cut, your blood doesn't clot on the outside, you bleed to death from a paper cut. If you miss one of those steps and you're with those cascade effects, your blood doesn't stay liquid on the inside and you get a clot and you die. So where did all that information come from? Now, not only does that, kill the evolution mindset, but think about this. That's called your circulatory system. Your circulatory system is also interdependent upon other irreducibly complex systems. You've got something called your respiratory system. What does the blood carry in and out? The oxygen and the carbon dioxide. So it works only because there's lungs and the respiratory system. Okay? Where does the respiratory system come from so you can have the circulatory system? But wait, it gets worse. The circulatory system needs the muscular system. The muscular system needs the skeletal system. The skeletal system needs the endocrine system. And there's many, many more. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So all these systems are there because they were designed to be there. And what's the conclusion of all this? The conclusion is there is a creator, he is a designer, and he wants you to know who he is. Yes, sir?
God created us, he created God.
That's a great question. But you got to think about it. God created time, space, and matter. So, since God created time, space, and matter, there's a natural law called the law of cause and effect. That means that everything that has a beginning is called an effect. Every effect must have an adequate cause. So, since time, space, and matter had a beginning, whatever caused it must be timeless. That means it's eternal. So God didn't have a beginning. It must be spaceless. It's a spiritual being. That means God is not physical. It must be immaterial. God's not made of matter. So God does not have a beginning. He's eternal because he created time, space, and matter, which does have a beginning. Yes, sir? Okay, Kelly, let me draw one. Why don't you get up there and draw a name, see if I can get you something on the way out. All right. Hey, hang on a second. I got one for you anyway. There's, I'll give you that one. That's a $5 gift certificate to Texas Roadhouse. Who was it that you called? Cameron?
Oh, yeah.
Cameron?
I guess I won't take the name.
All right, guys. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Thanks for joining me. No, I'm not. I'm still going. They're just leaving. That's okay. And I told people they can walk in and out as they want to. I'm happy with that because I'm just having a conversation. I'm just talking with people about how things work, and I just happen to be giving stuff away while I'm doing it. So I'm happy to do that. So, and as a matter of fact, the longer you stay, the probably the more likely you are to get something because there's only 3 of you left. So, do you guys have any questions? Now, do you go to church anyplace? Where do you go to church at? By any Baptist? Okay. I used to go there. Remember that? Pretty cool. Do you go there quite often? Cool. Let's see. Now, where do you go to church?
I don't go to church.
Don't go to church?
I did in Colorado.
Uh-huh.
I moved here.
Well, I go to a number of different churches around here. I actually go to Bible Baptist Church, was there last weekend. It was very exciting. Sorry. It's a personal joke. Anyway, because he goes there too. I also go to Turning Point, and I've been to a number of different churches in this area. There's a lot of good churches, a lot of good people around here. But you know what? The one thing I want to tell everybody, you know what? Nobody has 100% of it right. I'm not 100% right when it comes to the scripture. You know what? The pastor at XYZ church or ABC church, they may say, I've got it all perfectly right.
They're just speaking for themselves.
Yeah. Okay. If you think you got it all, the Bible says, if you think you know it all, then you know nothing. That's what the Bible says. That's how clear it can be. So I'm always learning. I'm always wanting to know more things. And that's what's really cool about learning. Because I like different things like logic and truth and different things like physics, which you can't do without the God of the Bible. I want you to think about something. I love science. One of my favorite things is science. And with science, you have things you can't do without what's called scientific laws, natural laws, like laws of gravity, laws of magnetism, thermodynamics, cause and effect, physics. I mean, why do you have cause and effect relationships? Why does water boil at 100 or 212 degrees every single time based on the same parameters? See, these things happen over and over and over again. But we live in a world that is doing something called entropy. You see, people want to say that evolution is how we got here, but evolution can't be the way we got here, because everything decays over time. Now, if you take a mouse, let's say you have a pet mouse and it dies, and you put it on the backdrop, does it become a fossil? What happened to it? What?
It rots.
Yeah.
It decays.
It decays. Because we have different things in our material world called decomposers, and they bacteria, maggots, flies, other animals will come and eat the darn thing. It disintegrates. But even before that happens, there's something called entropy. Everything is decaying over time. As you guys grow up, you'll finally get to a point where you will grow old. Like me. You know what? This is called decaying over time. Every one of us have a beginning. Every one of us will have an ending. So, wait a minute. If we know that everything had a beginning, what caused it to begin? That's a good question. If we know everything in our world decays, everything does this. It's a natural law. It's called the law of entropy, or the second law of thermodynamics. Everything is decaying over time. So it can't get better. So if we have a natural law that says nothing can get better over time, but evolution says, no, everything in biology gets better over time, which one is right? Now, which one do we see? Actually, we see the decay all the time. And I'm just like, wow, we see this decay all the time. How can they realize, how come they can't realize that this decay tells us that there cannot be evolution? So if there cannot be evolution, that means there must be what? A creator God who loves us enough to create us. And see, now here's where it gets really interesting. And this, when I used to be an atheist, that's the first thing I came to realize. Okay, I've been doing it my own way for such a long time. I'm going to keep on doing it my own way. I'm not going to change. Well, then I finally realized I got to change. Because guess what? There's a God. I didn't want to believe that there was a God. And if there was no God, I didn't have to listen to anybody. I made all my own rules. I did what I wanted to do. Uh-oh. But now there's a God. I'm no longer in charge because I didn't make me. I am responsible to the one who did create all things. Him, God. And you know what he tells me to do? He tells me to love him. And to love him, I got to obey his commandments. Okay, where do I find those? They're in the Bible. You know, in order to find out how to live your life and how the best life you can have, you know, there's people preaching nowadays, oh, if you buy my book, you'll have the best life you can possibly have. That's a load of crud. If you want to have the best life you can possibly have, the Bible says, obey the commandments. God says, I put before you this day blessings and curses, life and death. And you know what? He knows we're not too smart. He tells us the answer. He says, choose life. Wow, how cool is that God would tell us what to do? I love that. That's called instruction. He wants us to choose life. But what happens is, we tend to want to make up stuff as we go along. If we can't understand it, we make up stuff as we go along. Especially when we don't want to believe what we already know. See, we look around. The Bible says in Romans chapter 18, starting verse 20, it says, "For what can be known about God is plain to them." To who? Everybody. You know what? When you look around, you know that that Gatorade didn't get there by itself. You know that that chair didn't get there by itself. You know the dirt on the floor, that didn't get there by itself. You know what? Something caused it to be there. So, if everything in our physical world had a cause, then what caused the physical world? It can't be the physical world. It has to be something outside of the physical world. It's really pretty cool how that works. Okay, come on up. I'll tell you what. I've got 2 things left. So what I'm going to do.
I didn't put my name in.
Oh, you did? Okay, right. Well, if I've only got 2 things left, here's what I'm going to do. You each get a little something. There you go. It even comes with an action figure. You get a $5 gift too. Hey guys, thank you for coming. Oh, let me
Actually,
I forgot to put out some of my website.
I do have a question.
Okay.
So when we talk about entropy, one thing I would think that may come as a challenge, even though I do believe that there is, aren't there some species of jellyfish that are practically immortal?
They're not immortal. They still decay over time, ever so slightly. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. They do decay over time, ever so slightly. Now, they do live for an exceedingly long amount of time. But everything in the physical world, all matter, has
I haven't done too much research into that, so I didn't know.
But all matter, it doesn't matter what type of matter it is, it has going through something called thermal equilibrium. See, everything cools off over time. So even the jellyfish has some heat to it. So it doesn't matter how long you watch it, that heat will eventually die out. So I think it turned out pretty good. Really good.